Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 177th episode of Book of Hours, playing as the artist. I'm hoping that maybe a little more coffee will keep me on the ball today, but our focus is going to be continuing to develop our disciplines of the Scar, and I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to level up disciplines of the Scar to level 8, and my sort of secondary goal is, where I can, to level it up, at least get the conditions under which I'll do the next level up in place. By that I mean, I want to have the Wormwood Dream, I want to have the Old Wound. All of that stuff should sort of be ready to go in my inventory, in my memory, this left-hand side of the screen. What is it? Memories. All of that should be ready to go for tomorrow. And then I think probably because I'm going to have most of the things that I need to level it up, what I might do is sort of start on my next text, which will probably be one of these texts with Newman. The Newman are most tempting just because they do wind up giving me accesses. We only really have 2 more rooms once this one is open, so they do allow me to do a little bit more in terms of leveling up different skills and such. And of course, the funny thing is that while unlocking so much of the house is a very large part of the game, it's not the ultimate goal. In fact, really restoring Hush House can kind of be considered finished. What I'll say here is we put our soul and journal here, right? Sunset beneath the tree. Hush House lives again. Perhaps that's all I want. Some of the very best librarians have worked well, lived quietly, left the world a better place. This will end your game. Ambitious librarians might prefer to keep looking for another victory. Contented librarians understand that to restore the house and find the tree is victory enough. Or, of course, you could choose this ending anytime you like and begin again with another librarian. So to a certain extent, the goal of restoring the house has more or less been complete as soon as we open up Earl Brian's field. But that's not what we came for, right? We want to understand a little bit more of what's going on, and to a certain extent, there are a large number of questions that have been raised, and we don't necessarily have full answers for. So we have some ideas in terms of what's happened in the house, right? We know where the fire came from now. That sort of was revealed inside the Kukerbit. And then we also had some details that there's maybe a little bit more going on with the DeWolves once we started going, into these underground caverns and maybe learned a little bit more about, the various legends that were sort of hinted at up here, right? So we had Red William, and then another reference to Red William inside here. But we also have... Basically, in addition to some texts that we haven't really been able to read yet, there are just a number of sort of open questions on top of the obvious ones, such as, what about the remaining treasures of the house, the secrets? I have a pretty good idea of where most of them are, but it's nice to have just a natural way of pointing to this was the thing that gave me the hint, because otherwise, if you just sort of watch a streamer claim... I mean, I guess if there's one game where you're going to say it was revealed to me in a dream, this is the one that you would say it for. But obviously, it's much more interesting to just be able to say, hey, remember that line about, such and such? Well, what can we think of that applies here? And, there was that idea of when we applied Tridesma Hira to this altar, we actually had 2 different books offering 2 different ways of finding that particular text. And, similarly, some of you might have noticed that there was a case where there was actually a treasure of the house that I found by accident, and I actually declined to pick it up. I mean, ultimately, that was the time when I had the most books anyway. And it's largely in the service of that I think it's more valuable to have some reasoning behind why we find these special things, ultimately because they do tell us something about the game, right? So, for instance, we had the Columbic sarcophagus, but we also know a little bit more about who's in it and why. And I think that is equally important. And then, of course, there's also the other little details, too. So, for instance, I remember I was giving sort of some... I can't remember if I actually said this, but I was always giving these guessing games in terms of the where the altars are going to go, and you can see the alignment, right? We had Lagia, the Queen Unsated, and the Callicite altar, the Grail. We had the Horned Axe, and again, the Assite altar. And then we had Aspect of the Malachite, Mylissa, Queen, and Palace, and of course the altar to the Malachite. So we have the alignments along here. There's just little things like that, right, where the game doesn't necessarily, like, it doesn't draw too much attention to this stuff. But it's nice to pick up on it, and there can just be different ways to present it. And in the end, I mean, it's always kind of interesting. It's a little bit like Cultist Simulator in a way, in the sense that you can move all of the different cards into different places, but it doesn't necessarily, that's not just enough, right? You kind of want to have some reasoning and some ideas about why you're doing it. Otherwise, the story might be a little more mysterious than it has to be. And I think there's sort of a similar case that can be made for Book of Hours, although it's maybe not as obvious at the time, simply because it's a more forgiving game, right? So if you know, the penalty for Book of Hours, if you don't really know what you're doing, or you're really stuck and you don't want to look it up, you know, the real loss here is just of time. Now, of course, the drawback is if you rely too much on text, if you rely too much on, you know, people telling you how to do things, the danger is you get to the end of the game and then you read the text at the end and you're like, oh, is that all there is? And it's like, well, you know, it's actually really cool. But I was very satisfied with the ending that I got. But, like, you know, the finale means more if you've taken that time to go on the journey and you've chosen something, as opposed to just sort of your meandering towards some sort of closure. Although, again, everybody has their own way of playing these things. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to... hopefully you're already sold on the value of this game, but I just wanted to point out that we do actually have quite a few things ahead of us, even once the house is opened up. And the first among those would just be to get some more of the treasures unlocked, to say nothing of reading them. Okay. So, we're working on the Sweet Bones. We're still talking with No, we're not talking with Mrs. Kell. Let's get that started again. Now, can I do something with the regret? I'm just trying to think here. So, I believe the thing that was holding me back was... Let's actually reconsider the chancel here. Or I guess I can't. Right, because I was getting the old moment. Although I guess it was Disciplines of the Hammer I was going for anyway. So if I were to insist on making a winning move... You know, I actually probably have a better chance of making this than I think. So let's... Yeah. Interesting. So that's only for alchemy. This would still work, though. Okay, good to know. Let's hope it is equally possible to forget this again. So we can employ our core here. Still going for Edict's Martial, but in this case we're just restoring the old wound. Explore an old wound to awaken the violent resonances within. Now I do want to put some thought into where I get those more mundane memories from. regret. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Better now. Okay. So just a reminder in terms of what I need as a whole. So Foresight, Revelation, and Fear are the 3. Right now, I've only got 2, although technically I also have the Metal, the Arab, and the Whist, so I don't think I'm at the point where I need to start pulling things away. I do want to wrap up the use of the alchemy set. I want to call it the chemistry set, but the alchemy equipment. Alchemist's table, I think they call it in alchemy. With keeper level scale, not lantern, an old moment can lead to an earthquake name, which we actually got to see. I just I had to reset because of my foolishness. So old moment, you've had them too, those moments where we seem to look out at the world through another's eyes. What if those moments were real? Okay, so let's take the Arab, the disciplines of the hammer, the regret, and libidic tincture. I'm actually going to take a minute here also to see if I only have the one. Oh no, I think I've made a couple by mistake. Establish a synthesis of alternatives. Disciplines of the hammer with scholar level edge plus memory creates a winning move. And one thing I'd kind of like to do here is see whether or not these winning moves are persistent or not. So again, we got 4 of the 7 that I need to level up. So really this is just a question of 3. The health, the shaft, and the whist ought to do the trick. But the hope, of course, is that Mrs. Kill will give us some of what we need. Not right now, though. Intuition. You just know, you know? There tisn't can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. So whether or not I would have been able to get this to level 9 right away, I'm not 100% sure on. I have kind of two thoughts on that, but move gingerly while the pain lasts. I am going to need to make a decision reasonably soon about whether or not I want to use the Curious Hunch here. So that would give me 5 of the 7 that I need. I think I need to do it before the bells and the birds go off too. I'm currently inclined to say no. But we'll see. We can probably get one more chat with Mrs. Kill before I need to make the decision. Okay, the gossip doesn't do much for me. I think we're going to chat with Mrs. Kill. And yeah, I think in this case here, so in 42 seconds, we will have our 5th memory. I guess I can keep the old moment overnight. So I've actually probably overdone it at this point, but I have some ideas about how we can work around this. So we will begin by generating the memory. Right, okay, we already have the enduring reflection. So again, this is a 90-second setup. So essentially what I basically have kind of 30 seconds to spare. So we'll add this to the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yeah, I guess Foresight, Revelation, and Fear. So we'll use the Leonine Tantra to continue on our scroll run. So I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. And here we will also go for the Revelation. And to be honest, it has been a while since we've gone for any of these. So let's start with the Locksmith's Dream Volume 4. And then I think what I'm going to do with this whist is we'll just use it to get the Bells of Ease again. So we've got the replacement. Oh, you know, yeah, sorry. Actually, I've already gone one over. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my day. Oh, right, sorry. I was going to sleep on the old moment if the edge one didn't work out. We could even try and upgrade the edge one, but then I think there's a couple of risks if I try that. There tisn't give me no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. So things didn't really work out with Mrs. Kill in terms of generating memories that we needed for Disciplines of the Scar, although it would be hard to say that it wasn't a good... it would be hard to say that this was a waste for the simple reason that she has given us the opportunity to... You know, like the regret, for instance, to use that in the creation of other memories. So with Keeper Level Edge, a winning move is a precursor to Invincible Audacity. Now, one thing I'm going to do here is just try and get a little bit of a read on the Invincible Audacity. So we'll start with Disciplines of the Scar. I'm going to add the Forbidden Epic here, but then we're going to add the winning move. Okay, so... definitely not a Disciplines of the Scar thing. I suspect Disciplines of the Hammer should give me that. Yeah, there's the Invincible Audacity. Now that would be a persistent memory. However, it does also... Actually, I guess that wouldn't. So I could make this a persistent one, but... Well, then I'd be giving up the Forbidden Epic too. That seems like too much of a loss. Edicts Marshal. Okay, good to know. And then I don't think we have enough from the Ragged Crossroads to know anyway, but there you go. There's winning move if I'm so inclined. And for some reason I forgot Wolf Stories and Sharps. Okay, Wolf Stories doesn't count here. So we can get a winning move. Good to know. So why did I think... Oh, Edict... sorry, Auroral Contemplations, of course. Right. Okay. So like I said, I'm not going to do anything to hang on to the winning move. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we'll say we'll hang on to the old moment. Winning move isn't an option to hang on to in the Violet Chamber because of the its Grail, Knock, Moth, and Heart. Winning move is edge only, but in this case we can hang on to the old moment because of the Moth. So here we're just going to let the generation of the normal memories come up. I actually could have started reading for the Newman right now, but I guess it doesn't hurt. We're keeping it overnight anyway, so... Alright, The Locksmith's Dream, Stolen Reflections, the fourth volume of Teresa Galmier's expansive work, no longer a discussion on the dreams of artisans, but a valuable survey of other works. The tone is calmer than that of Trespasses, but occasionally fearful, even paranoid. This volume was published in 1926, but almost immediately recalled and pulped by the publisher at the request of the author or possibly the authorities, depending on which story you believe. A few copies survive. Janus is the gatekeeper, the twin god, the god that wounds, the presager of changes, the sun, the moon. So we identify him with the watchman, the twins, with the mother, with the forge, with the meniscate, and the madrigad. He cannot be all of these, can he? The Flamines knew the church, knew the dry land, knew Elagabalus. Is he then synthesis, or is he something else? In Galatea they called him Aeneas Lamius, but the Obliviots are notorious for their slanders. Janus has, they say, not one face but two, to which I reply, why only one? Why only two? Hersault and Coseley, according to Thomas Love Denman, once agreed that Janus was all the gods and none, but later that Hersault described him as all the gods, and Coseley favored none. Denman was a sinister dilettante, but this rings true of them both. Leonine Tantra. In the most notorious translation of the Leonine Tantra, Ashley Phillips is listed as the translator, but their existence is explicitly denied in the prologue. This confusion is characteristic of books which mention the Great Hooded Princes. The Tantra describes elliptically the Great Hooded Princes and the multitudinous ways in which they influenced wars against foreign invaders in the land of the Great River, although in a sense they were also invaders. Lions can be created, not as children are created, nor as words are created, but as weapons are created. The Great Hooded Princes learnt to create lions from their spyings on the affairs of the hours, and not all lions now serve the Golden General. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're good to go. If I'm going to be keeping the old moment, there's no benefit to hanging on and seeing what Mrs. Kill gives me. At last, I approach mastery. So the replacement for the Curious Hunch is on its way. I guess we can still keep talking with Mrs. Kill, but there's not a whole lot for me to go on at this point. And we might as well get another point of the course. So actually, in this case, I can be reading the text, which gives me the bells of ease. There's no need to hold back anymore. Moth's gift or mine? And the skill is now level 8. Its power aspects have also increased. Okay. So I don't need to spend too much time working out a game plan for the next upgrade, but I am going to just take a minute here and talk about what's easier and what isn't. So Foresight, Revelation, Fear, Contradiction, and Bittersweet Certainty. Essentially 5 of the 8 that we need are... Actually, sorry, 6 of the 8 that we need are purely a matter of reading books. In fact, we've already got the Newman. So essentially here, we've got 5, 2 of which are already going to be... 2 of which we know we need to generate using elements of the soul. On top of that, we've got the Old Wound, the Winning Move, the Old Moment, and the Wormwood Dream. Now, some of these are easier to get than others. So the Old Moment we know we have. So in practical terms, we're really just looking for 6 more memories. And of course, if we say we're looking for 6 more memories, if we already have... Excuse me, if we've got 5 that we can just get from elements of the soul, it's really just a question of which of these do I want to give up. And again, the Old Wound is the easy answer there because I can essentially get it with anything. So I think practically what's going to happen here is I'm going to take the Old Moment, the Old Wound, the Newman. I'm going to generate the Foresight, Revelation, Fear, Contradiction, Bittersweet Certainty, one way or another. And then at the start of the day, we will read... Or actually, I can't do it at the start of the day. Maybe I should actually just use all the elements of the soul. I'll have a think about it, but... So one of the things I was just thinking of, if I want to try and read one of these texts tomorrow at the start, I actually need to make sure I don't overwrite the Newman. So maybe starting the day with 5 elements of the soul to read the text that I need and just move on. That might be a better call. Okay, so we definitely need to preserve the old moment. Dream on a memory. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream of the day's doings. And we've got our money. So this more or less made up for the wider spending that I did yesterday. We're still going to bring in Mrs. Kill tomorrow. But again, the first priority is going to be to level up the Sickle and Eclipse. And then second priority is going to be to get started on my next book. So one thing I can do is sort of ask what's going to be the easier one to upgrade. So the Shretic Book of Suns gives me Sacra Solus Invicti, which is basically trivial. Corpulent Amphalos would help me with weaving and knot working, so that's a little bit more challenging. We'd probably take that from 5 to 7. And the Turquoise Hand would give me Pentaments of Precursors, so that is kind of comparable to the weaving and knot working. I'm actually kind of on the fence as to which way I would go with this. Maybe the harder one earlier in winter is the right way to think of this. Like, I was originally going to do the Shretic Book of Suns, but maybe Coprolinthe and Phalos is the one just because I should... Yeah. Yeah, I think I've talked myself into this one, actually. Again, the heart and the moth is not going to be the easiest thing for me to work with, but... Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. Okay, so we're going to set aside the 2 Arab here. In fact, one of these is going to go for Mrs. Kill right away. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. I think in this case, the Whist is probably the more appropriate to use to level things up. So the thing to remember here is that the core... actually, so all of these are geared towards the memories that or the things that I'm going to need to level up weaving and knot working. So let's start. In this case, Coprolinthe Amphalos needs moth to be red. Now, I don't actually think I need moth in I don't think I need moth from an element of the soul. I think we've already got a high enough. Yeah. So with resurgences and emergences, that's really just a question of adding the appropriate language. See me? And in this case, we need to add an element of the soul. I am slightly inclined to go for the Shapt in this case, or maybe a Fet. The Shapt is the one that's actually least related to the things I need to do right now. So I can master this mystery, enough moth to match mystery moth. Now, I'm also going to take a second here. I know this isn't the most exciting way to end an episode, but I'm going to take a minute and sort out what memories I need for Heart and Moth. And we'll do the usual routine of just going through the books. So definitely Impulse. That's Moth and Nectar. Satisfaction doesn't help us because it's Grail. Oh, hang on. Actually, I think that has a heart part too. So that does help us. Revelation is pure lantern. Secret Thresholds, I believe, is moon. Oh, no, sorry, that one I think is rose. It's the secret. Anyways, the rose still doesn't help us. Bittersweet Certainty is winter and lantern, and Foresight is lantern and forge. Contradictions, edge and moon. Hindsight, again, doesn't have the heart, the heart and moth. Intuition, same story. Gossip is grail and rose. Fear is edge and scale. Regrets, forge and winter. Storm has heart. Stolen secrets, knock and moon. Pattern, knock and forge. Solace, definitely. Earth sign is nectar and scale. Pattern still knock and forge. Cheerful ditties are heart. Confounding parables add sky, which isn't relevant to our current pursuit. So here we've got salt. I think all of these are salt, so that doesn't help with heart and moth. Regret similarly. Savage hymn, again, that gives us scale. Beguiling melodies gives us grail. So we've got 6 from basic books that we can read. So then with 7 we've got the name day riddle. 8 we technically have the storm weather. And actually it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to just mouse over the moth, so Hive's Lament. Curious Hunch. Old Moment. Name Day Riddle. That's even before I look at the heart. And Enduring Reflection. Technically, Thunderskin's peeing as well. But the fact of the matter is, like, 14, I'm not going to need to worry about. Now, it's worth saying, like, I am going to have to put some effort into this, right? I'm going to take this from 5 to 7, so I need 11 to work with. But the 5 is a piece of cake. The 5 is just a matter of talking to the right people and maybe getting a little lucky. Yeah. I don't think I need to spend too much effort to organize this. So the Wisp, the Metal, and the Fost are sort of the prime candidates to be used for inputs. But I think I'll just save all this for the next episode. We're definitely getting our top level of Disciplines of the Scar today. And the question is whether or not I can angle things in such a way that I can give myself a little bit of a head start with leveling up, weaving, and not working. Actually, let's get this all on the way up to 7. Basically, if I can, it would be nice to try and level that up to at least 1 by the end of the day. I could probably go even further if I tried to hold on to Mrs. Kill to get me the memories. The thing is that it takes me a while to read the book, so I do need to plan out the timings of everything. Anyways, neither here nor there. It's something I will take care of in a future episode. So, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.